Today, let us understand Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1 verse 11. Ayaneshu ca sarveshu yata bhagam vastitaha bhishmameva bhirakshantu bhavantaha sarva evahi. The meaning of this verse is, all of you, properly stationed in your places in the divisions of the army, do protect Bhishma. Why would a king ask his entire army to protect just one man? At first glance, this look sounds strange. Why protect Bhishma alone? Why not attack? Why not advance? But this verse is not about war tactics. It is about what keeps us bound inside. Duryodhana understands one thing very clearly. If Bhishma falls, everything falls. So the command is simple and clear. Protect him no matter what. Duryodhana represents material desire, and material desire is never confident. It is always afraid. Material desire always looks powerful from outside, but inside it is insecure. Why? Because desire knows it has no independent existence. It survives only as long as ego consciousness supports it. That is why desire is restless. That is why it is aggressive. That is why it wants control. Duryodhana is fear pretending to be strength. Who is Bhishma? Bhishma is not evil. He is indispensable. Bhishma represents ego, but not ego as arrogance. Bhishma is simple feeling, I am this body, I am this personality. This ego is not the soul, it is chidābhāsa, the reflected consciousness of the soul in the body and mind. Because it is a reflection of pure awareness, the ego feels intensely real and therefore becomes difficult to let go of. You cannot function in this world without some sense of I. And that is why Bhishma is respected, and that is why he is protected. You can remove desires and still be trapped. Many people think spiritual life is about removing bad habits or desires. But the Bhagavad Gita gives deeper warning. Even good tendencies can become egoistic. You may become proud of being spiritual, attached to being disciplined, identified with being better. That is still ego. That is why ego is stronger than desire, because it can hide behind goodness. What is Kurukshetra really? This war is not on a land, it is inside your nervous system. Kurukshetra is not just a place on map, it is the field of the body itself. The war happens where consciousness moves, in the spinal centers, in the brain, in awareness itself. Whenever your attention moves outward, the Kauravas gain ground. Whenever your attention moves inward, the Pandavas rise. Your enemies are not outside, they are habits. Habits are powerful because it operates automatically. You don't choose it each time, it chooses you. Drona represents habit memory. It trains your ego to repeat itself. Kripa represents delusion. It convinces you that this repetition is normal. Together, they keep ego safe and unquestioned. The ego cannot be destroyed. You cannot attack ego and win. If you try, you either suppress it or pretend it is gone. Ego must see its own limitation. That is why Bhishma himself reveals how he can fall. Transformation begins only when ego stops resisting, when it allows itself to soften, surrender, and change. Every step upward invites resistance. The yogi first disciplines behavior, then breath, and then mind. But when consciousness turns inward and upward, the resistance becomes stronger. Old identities panic, habits tighten, ego defends itself. This is not failure, this is confirmation that the battle is real. Meditation weakens ego, it does not erase it. Deep meditation does not destroy ego overnight. Instead, ego becomes quieter, less aggressive, and less demanding. The sense of I exist remains, but without domination. This is a necessary stage, not a flaw. Ego dissolves in highest realization. Bhishma is not killed in the battle. Instead, he is rendered powerless and lies on a bed of arrows, fully conscious and detached. This reflects savikalpa samadhi state, where the ego is subdued, purified, and non-binding. Yet the subtle sense of individuality still remains. Though Bhishma has the power to leave the body, he chooses to wait for the sun to move northward. This waiting symbolizes that the complete dissolution of ego occurs when the consciousness moves to the highest center. When Bhishma relinquishes the body, it represents nirvikalpa samadhi, where individuality dissolves completely and merges into the pure spirit. This verse is not about war, it is about bondage. Bhagavad Gita Chapter 1 verse 11 explains why bondage persists, not because of desire alone, but because ego is protected. When ego turns inward, desire loses power, and that is the real beginning of freedom.